This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the TPB for Tuesday, June the 14th. I want to welcome everyone that's joining us online and those that are joining us in person. We do have a quorum, so I'd like to again welcome everyone and call the meeting to order. The first thing is to approve the agenda for today. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second by both Becky Tuttle and Troy Tabor. Oh, I'm sorry, Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is to approve the May 10 meeting minutes. Everyone's had an opportunity to review those. Make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Becky Tuttle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is director's report. I'll turn it over to Chad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Transportation Planning Body. Let me look at the PowerPoint slides really quick. As you all know, the MPO is mainly takes care of long-range transportation planning and short-range transportation planning, not just the MPO here, many MPOs around. And one of the unique things about our MPO, Wichita MPO, is the initiative on the economic development. In the next slide, we have several appendix reports that a long-range transportation plan has. This cycle of long-range transportation plan will have economic development as the appendix report. So that's a unique thing, and the staff is very excited to support leadership at WAMPO as well, because not just the region, many regions have seen the pandemic impacts, and many of you are also tirelessly working towards how to restore the economic development with resilience. Today, then let me go to next slide. Today we have, in your packets, you have the, who are all the presenters. And today we have Kathy Sexton from City of Wichita to present. She will be here soon to present at the end of the meeting for the economic development. To staff, it is increasingly becoming more purpose-driven, because just as the way the analogy is the transportation system has the support on the land, on the ground, in the same way, with the same analogy, the economic development has its roots and foundation in the transportation system. So staff is so excited that how these conversations are happening, with the transportation system planning. And then we have more purpose-driven in our transportation planning as well, in our tasks as well. With that, I would like to request Ashley to present the next item on website organization. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. So I'm Ashley Byers, Transportation Planning Manager, and we just wanted to let you know we recently reorganized our website. It is the same URL, but things might look a little different when you go to it. We hope it's easier to navigate, but if you have any difficulty, please let us know and we can help point you to the right direction. We now have separate pages for different projects, for different committees, and there's one tab that has all of our information that our core documents are, so the MTP, the TIP, the Public Participation Plan, and the UPWP. We also added a search bar, so pretty excited about having the search bar, and translation to Spanish and Vietnamese. Thank you.
The next item is Ashley Byers as well.
All right. The bike ped counts or the quarterly task chart. I can do the quarterly task chart. So on page 8 of your agenda packet, we have all of the tasks that are occurring this year. And let's see, it was February, we presented this, and then we added what quarters the different tasks were occurring. And so we decided we would update this quarterly, so we would let you know how we're progressing along. And several things have moved forward since we first looked at this. So you can watch us march along our journey of tasks.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you. Then on the quarterly report, we have today a consent agenda item. Staff would like to quickly provide you the travel demand modeling project. Staff coordinated with KDOT staff in developing and complying with the procurement guidelines and developing new timelines for the project to be completed. So once we have your approval on the consent agenda, that WAMPO staff worked with KDOT staff in developing this agreement, then follows the RFP issue and then the consultant selection process, forgive me. So that's an update on one of the tasks that's listed on page number 8 of your packets, that is travel demand model forecasting update. Also on that note, I also would like to tie how today's agenda items are tied to long-range transportation planning and short-range transportation planning. So today's agenda item, the consent agenda item falls under long-range transportation planning because travel demand modeling provides forecasting for traffic volumes, and that's an integral part of developing a long-range transportation plan. And today's action items like 4A as an example and 4B as an example. 4A is an administrative modification for long-range transportation plan. So obviously that falls under long-range transportation plan tasks and development. And the item 4B falls under the short-range transportation plan, that is TIP, which indicates the committed funding projects. So just wanted to provide a context of where all these items are falling with respect to long-range transportation plan development and short-range transportation plan development in an MPAO. With that, let me request, so bike ped count locations is, there it is on the screen. We have annual event that's scheduled. Who would like to talk? Okay, thank you.
So we have an annual bike ped count. This will be in September. Those dates there. We will count each location 3 times, one time from 10 to noon, one time from 5 to 7, and another time from noon to 2 on a Saturday. So we are trying to find volunteers. So if you know anyone, please send them our way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And if you recall back, I think it was December, we voted to modify the TIP to add the travel demand module. And at this point, we've got the agreement that we're working out. So that is a consent item. I move that we approve the consent agenda. We have a motion and a second by Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is public comments. Does anyone online or in the audience wish to speak during public comments today? Doesn't look like we have any public comments. We'll move to a new business then. First item, Ashley is going to brief us on a couple of the TIP amendments. So we'll cover item 4A first. Ashley.
Thank you. So the Reimagine Move 2040 is our long-range transportation plan, which was approved in June of 2020. And there it is. And we have the ability to make changes when we need to. We can do amendments and we can do administrative modifications. And so we are doing an administrative modification now because it is a minor change, and so it doesn't require as much process. And this administrative modification does not require public review and does not require re-demonstration of fiscal constraint. It does require approval from TPB though. And so that's why we're here today. Nick will talk about the specifics.
Afternoon, Nick.
Afternoon. This is about as small of a modification as we could have to an MTP. It only affects one project, the East Kellogg project on US 54-400, as shown on this map here. And the only change being made to it is to the time band on the far right of this slide. No change to the scope of the project or the cost of it or the nature of it or the name or the identification number, only to the time band. It was previously 2025 to 2040, and now we're making it 2020 to 2040 because KDOT said that they wanted to start it earlier than 2025, and thus we're doing this in order to accommodate that. There is a little bit of downstream effect of that in other tables in the finance appendix of the MTP, but it has no effect on the fiscal constraint at all. So just some quick changes to tables 14 and 16 in the finance appendix of the MTP, where numbers are broken down by time band. And so that's the only change in that part. And so you're now being asked to either approve this administrative modification as proposed, not approve it, or approve it with specific changes.
Well, thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. First of all, we want to thank KDOT for moving this up in priorities so that we can get it done sooner. We've all been briefed on it last month, and they're holding public comments on it. So I don't think there should be too much discussion, but I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Becky Tuttle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next one, item 4B.
Thank you. So the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program, is a document that is updated every 2 years. But in the interim time, we do quarterly amendments. However, we can do special amendments if we need to accommodate a project, and so that's what this is. This amendment is for the KDOT project, which Nick will be talking about in a second as well. And the public comment period was started in April, and we did not receive any public comments, and the TAC recommended approval of this amendment. And on to Nick.
Thank you, Ashley. You can find the particulars on this amendment on pages 35 to 45 of your packet or online at our wampo.org/transportation-improvement-program. It includes, we're including with this one project that is only having an administrative adjustment that does not require your approval, and 3 projects that do require formal action, two of which are part of the East Kellogg project already mentioned in the MTP administrative modification just now, and one is a City of Mays project that had a request for an amendment that we just decided to pair with this one while we had it going. So here are the project locations. You see the 2 projects on East Kellogg, east of I-35 and K-96, out to almost the edge of our region to Prairie Creek Road, I believe, and the one project in Mays on Academy Avenue that require formal action. The one project having the administrative adjustment is not a mappable project, it is a KDOT bucket project. So here's a summary of the affected projects. As you can see, for the Academy Avenue project in Mays, the only change is that they increased the cost estimate on the project, and that with the additional cost coming entirely from local funds. And then you have the two East Kellogg projects. One was an existing project that is being modified, and the other is a new project that is part of the same thing, but same overall project, but two separate projects in the tip. And the new one will contain the construction portion, and the existing one will primarily be the preliminary phases, with including a name change to distinguish it from the new project. And then also a cost increase on the existing one, and updates to administrative contacts. Let's see here. It has gone through a 30-day public comment and review period as required. It is consistent with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan as of a couple minutes ago. It is fiscally constrained, and it adds $305.4 million of spending, none of that from WAMPO sub-allocated funds. So no reason to worry there. And so you are being asked to either approve it as proposed, or to not approve the amendment, or to approve it with specific changes.
Well, thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. None of these should be a big anyone. We discussed county or city manager Lemunion brought the project in Mays to us several months ago. So that's not the need for changing the tip for the projects on East Kellogg shouldn't be a surprise. So I make a motion that we approve the amendment proposed.
Second.
Second by Becky Tuttle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next is update on the open house coming up on June 29th. So Ashley.
Thank you. The WAMPO public participation plan requires us to do a open house when we are amending the long range plan, and then we're developing a new tip. And so this past spring, we've worked on the 2023 to 2026 transportation improvement program. So the one we just amended was the 21 to 24. So this is the next 2 years out. And then we have an amendment to the long range plan, or Reimagine Move 2040, to go along with that TIP process. So this meeting will be at the Advanced Learning Library in Conference Center C on the 29th from 4 to 6:30, and it's a come and go type event, so you don't have to be there the entire time. So we would love to see you there, though. Thank you. Any questions about that?
I don't see any questions. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate the update.
Yeah, one quick thing. So the public comment period for those two documents it's going to open tomorrow. So it'll be June 15th to the July 15th.
Super. Thank you. Next item is an update on economic development from the city of Wichita. Is Kathy Sexton here? I haven't seen her.
I think Kathy requested that she would be here a little late. She's running late. She'll be here anytime. We could perhaps see
We
if
can
there's
move on.
and then when
I'll
Kathy
come
comes,
back
we
to
can.
Kathy. Very good. Next item is committee reports. I don't know how many of you picked up this document. I think it's laying up there on the table, but hopefully you did. If not, let me discuss it a little bit. For the last couple of months, we've talked about the executive committee and making sure that we hold all of the meetings for the executive committee in an open meeting type situation. Well, in order to do that, we needed some guidelines, and Chad and his staff prepared these. Becky and I talked with them about the different procedures, but what we want to do is make sure that everyone understands that all of our executive committee meetings are open meetings. Anyone's invited. If someone is not on the executive committee and they want to speak, we will give them an opportunity to beginning of each meeting to speak. But what we're proposing is that we will hold the meetings quarterly on a date that is scheduled. So the first meeting will be held on August the 4th, and it will be scheduled then every 3 months beyond that. In 2023 and beyond, the meetings will be scheduled then on the first Thursday of the month at 11:15 to noon on February, May, August, and November. If there's not a need for a meeting, they will be canceled. We'll notify everyone that they will not be needed, but it will be canceled in coordination with the chair and the vice chair. Also, we may have a need for a special meeting in between those times. In that case, we will publish that on our website so that everyone knows that we're going to have a special meeting, and it is again open to the public. The TPB bylaws do allow the chair to recess the regular meetings into executive session as permitted by Kansas law. The only time that I can imagine that we would go into executive session would be when we are doing the evaluation of Chad, and we will do that in executive session. But beyond that, I don't know of any other reason, unless there is some significant personnel issue or something that falls within the laws in the state of Kansas in order to be able to comply with an open meeting. The bylaws state that the presence of a majority of the total voting memberships of TPB so constitute a quorum. If no action is taken, there will be no action taken without a quorum. A quorum is not lost when one or more members abstain from voting. As there are 6 voting members of the executive committee, 4 members are needed to have a quorum. Meeting summaries will not be recorded, but meeting summaries will be developed to recap the meeting discussion. They will be presented to the executive committee at the next meeting for review. The results of the executive committee meeting will be presented at subsequent TPB meeting. The meeting summaries will be posted to the executive committee webpage on our WAMPO site. Agenda posting and distribution. Meeting agendas will be distributed and posted prior to the meeting. Currently, the public participation plan says that the agendas shall be distributed 5 days in advance of the TPB meeting. Meetings will be announced in the quarterly WAMPO newsletter. Additionally, TPB bylaws allow for special meetings if 24-hour notice is given. The executive committee meetings will follow those exact same guidelines. So again, the meeting dates, agendas, meeting summaries will be posted on our website under WAMPO.org Executive Committee. So these are the guidelines that we're putting together to ensure that all of our executive committee meetings are held legally in accordance with Kansas law. So I want to, if you don't have a copy of this, I think up by the name tags, there are copies of this if you want to review it or if you have any questions. So we did not hold an executive meeting, committee meeting prior to this. Becky Tuttle and I did meet with Chad and Ashley to discuss this, and this is what we've agreed on currently. If anyone has any questions or any concerns or things that they'd like changed from this, please let us know. I think they're handing out right now a copy of this if you'd like to review it. If there are there any questions at all on how we're going to hold our executive committee meetings? I don't see any questions. I guess I need to ask our attorney, do we need to vote on this to be able to adopt these procedures? We do not need to vote on it. So unless you all come up with something after you review these guidelines, this will be the guidelines for conducting the executive committee meetings in the future. So thank you all. And I don't have anything else on executive committee. So I don't see any questions. We'll go on to the next item, and we'll go to active transportation. And I know Alan's in the room, so I'll turn it over to Alan.
Thank you. Just real quickly, we had our last meeting June 1, had a good meeting, had presentations from Garden Plain and City of Wichita. I think that concluded our presentations from the different cities. So we're going to be moving on and going forward with what we're doing. Our next meeting will be September 7th, and we'll be developing an agenda for that shortly. So, but we've had good presentations. Looking forward to moving forward on developing a regional plan. Thank you.
Is Jack here? Does he want to present on anything on the safety plan?
Mr. Chair, I can fill in for Jack Brown.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead.
All right. We go on to the next item, and we've already got Tom at the podium, so we'll turn it over to KDOT Metro. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you. We had a weekend closure last weekend at the North Junction. We may have some other ones in the future. We have a guardrail project going on at the North Junction as well, and I know they will need a weekend closure, at least Saturday, to realign that, the concrete barrier wall that protects the workers. It does have a 12-foot width limit. And in the interest of giving Kathy some more time, I'm going to go through the 243 projects that KDOT has going right now. No, I'll stand for any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Tom? Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go through the rest of the committee reports, and then Kathy just walked in the room, so we'll go back to Kathy. So we'll start with KDOT, and let's see. I think Michael Moriarty is online, and I'll go to him first if he wants to say anything today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a quick update for the group about the upcoming summit in Wichita. I think we're mostly aware, right, that the federal bipartisan infrastructure law is providing historic infrastructure investments across the country, right? And the Kansas Infrastructure Hub was created as the state's coordinated approach for deploying these funds and maximizing opportunities under bill for not only transportation, but water and sewer, energy, as well as broadband tech. So cities, counties, and the private sector are encouraged to attend the Infrastructure Summit being held on July 13th and 14th to learn more about grant opportunities under bill, to discuss coordinated strategies for preparing our grant applications, and share input and perspective on infrastructure priorities across Kansas. So the registration for this event will be sent out later this week. There is a 500-person limit for this event. It will be held in Wichita at the Hughes Metropolitan Complex. And if you'd like to get on the distribution list, please email Bill, B-I-L, at ks.gov. And I'm going to drop that in the chat real quick. Please email Bill at ks.gov to get added to the distribution list. And Chad and Ashley, I sent you a copy of our save the dates. So if you don't mind, please send that out to the WAMPO contact list as well. And Mr. Chair, that concludes my update.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. What I ask Chad and Ashley to do is send out an email to all the members of the TPB so that they're aware of the meeting and how to register for it, if you would. And I'll go to Brent.
Thanks, Chair. So I'll give a brief update on some of them. We had a recent public meeting on East Kellogg. I think that went very well. Listened to people, what the comments were there. I did think it went well. Also, the K96 expansion project to 6 lanes. That project is from pretty much the North Junction down to 13th Street. We're beginning, that's in the development phase. We just beginning meetings on that project. So just want to give a brief update on those 2 future projects.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. Anyone else from Kansas online that might like to speak today? I don't see anyone. We'll go to Federal Highway Administration. I don't see Rick. Is he online?
This is Cecily Cochran. I'll be speaking on behalf of myself and Rick. I just wanted to remind people that the 2022 Highway Information Seminar is scheduled for October 24th through the 28th. It'll be in the afternoon, so 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, which will be noon to 4 our time on your calendar once you register. They tend to give a lot of really good information. I encourage everyone to register if you haven't. I did send out a link to KDOT, who I'm sure has already distributed it out to everybody. So if you need it again, just let me know. Also for the Safe Roads for All, the grant opportunity provided by Bill, the deadline for applications is September the 15th. So if you are needing additional information, they do have a website, and I'll drop that website in the link as well, just for information on, because there's 2 different portions of it that you could apply for. If you need one to develop an action plan, which is required in order for you to get an implementation grant, you can apply through that way. Just wanted to make sure everyone has enough time to review all of the information available. There have been a couple of webinars that have taken place, but if you've missed it, they've got it on the website that you could watch to give you a little bit more background and information on what you need to do. And also, Rick wanted me to just throw out there that the Kansas Freight Advisory Council will be meeting on next Wednesday at the Eisenhower State Building. We're very excited to work with KDOT. I definitely will be there with Rick. We're definitely excited to work with him on just the development of the new Kansas State Freight Plan. The last one was really good, but it's time now to renew that. And so we're looking forward to see what we can develop with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And Chad and Ashley, if you can add the federal information when you send out an update to all the TPB members, I appreciate it. And what I should have asked while the state was still up and the federal, do we have any questions from any of the members of the TPB on anything that was discussed today? Seeing nothing, we'll go back one step, and we have Kathy Sexton in the audience. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you.
And you're going to brief on economic development for the city of Wichita.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And and my compliments to the committee too for the transportation policy body for making this a priority to get this kind of view, this big picture view. And I have reviewed and watched the videos of your previous speakers. And Mr. Heslop, you can let Mr. Squires know that I'm not going to take near as long as he took last month. So but I do appreciate the time though. And as you all probably know, in Wichita, we don't have a whole building full of economic development staff like some cities our size would. What we have is a partnership with the Greater Wichita Partnership. When I say that, do you know what I'm talking about? The Greater Wichita Partnership. So for decades, the city and the county and the Chamber of Commerce cooperated to jointly do economic development, and that evolved into something called the Greater Wichita Partnership. And of course, there's also economic development opportunities with the various other communities, both cities, both in our county, but also sometimes just outside of our county, as you all know. So Greater Wichita Partnership literally chases leads, and they're our sales force out front. They chase leads, and then they figure out the best place for that particular business, whether it be Newton or Andover or Wichita or Cheney or what have you. So we all do try to cooperate. I think one of the things Dan told you last month from Derby is that we all try to look at each other's policies and make sure we learn from each other. We don't reinvent the wheel. We don't duplicate effort. We obviously sometimes tailor a policy to meet that community's needs, but also work together and not try to steal companies or jobs from each other. So there's a high degree of cooperation. And the other thing I would tell you is, as Andrew Nave told you several months ago in the very first presentation to you about Greater Wichita Partnership and the regional growth plan, if you'll remember, he said, I know you don't remember, so I'm going to tell you, right? I can't remember what I had for breakfast, so I know this is difficult. Regional growth plan that they have focused on as their guiding star, their North Star, is jobs, quality of place, and talent, workforce, right? keeping people here. Don't educate them in our wonderful Kansas colleges and universities and then shush them out the door or let them go other places without feeling like they have opportunities here. We've made great strides on that. I'll be honest. And who here remembers over 10 years ago when downtown Wichita looked a lot different than what it does today? I mean it. Come on, put up your hands. You remember, right? You remember when there were a lot of empty buildings downtown. And just the fact that downtown Wichita, Downtown Development Corporation, was established over a decade ago and has been working with the city, with the Greater Wichita Partnership, with the private businesses. Downtown today looks a whole lot different than it did 10 years ago. And we all know the renaissance in Old Town that began essentially in the mid-90s. It's hard to believe that's where it all started, right? But when you go through Old Town, some of those businesses are still operating from the very beginning of that renaissance. And of course, many have changed over, and that's good because we need change. But some of the things that are on the horizon that we're working on now are downtown redevelopment. We've had 10 great years. So what's next? So the plan was done over 10 years ago. So now it's time to update that plan. That's on the horizon. Also on the horizon is a plan that we started before COVID and almost got done, and now we're going to finish up, put on the shelf. So anybody know what that plan is? Come on, you know. Downtown streets and parking plan. Parking, yes, parking. Downtown streets and parking. So what do we need to do with downtown streets? Who here likes one-way streets? Do you really? I mean, okay, good, no hands, good. Because the downtown streets plan is partially dealing with the one-way streets. And so you know that the city made good progress on several that are in the Old Town, like between Old Town to the west, right? What are they? And somebody here will tell me if I get them wrong, like St. Francis, right? It's two-way now with parallel parking on it instead of 4 lanes of one way or 3 lanes one way, whatever it was. And what's another one that's done? Emporia, good job, way to go. There's one more, I think. Is there one more? Come on, Gary, tell me, help me out. One more. I don't know. So there's 3 little ones that were done, but now it's time to do some more, right? So we're about to open another hotel, and one hotel's already opened in downtown, just south of Douglas. What's the name of that? Come on. There's a Hilton there with a Starbucks in it now, and about to open is like an AC Marriott, right? So what do hotels bring in? People who aren't used to one-way streets. And so as you get more people in those hotels and you get more, you know how many buildings have redeveloped into apartments downtown? A lot, a lot. There are quite a few, not only the core downtown, obviously we know Old Town started redeveloping into apartments first, the core downtown, and now what we call West Bank or Delano area. We call all that part of our central part of our community. And there are new apartments being built on the west bank of the river, as well as older buildings being renovated. So what does all that mean? When there's more people downtown, it is more vibrant. It is more multifunction. It's busy during the day for office and people like us here for government, but it's also busy in the evening and at night, and it is people's homes. People are out walking their dogs, right? I'm telling you all this because this is the future of economic development in Wichita. It is making places people want to live, and they can live comfortably and affordably, and they can get around without having to take a car everywhere. So the walkability plan that has been a part of your planning, our planning for some years now is key. And it is about making 2-way streets out of 1-way streets. Because why? Partly because you don't want to go the wrong way down the 1-way street. And 2, because you need a bike lane on them. And how else are you going to get a bike lane on them besides restriping and making space? And of course, we just don't need all that pavement as much as we used to or thought we used to. So, and sometimes the other reason is parking. We have a lot of parking garages downtown, but are they in the right spots? Are they the most convenient, or do people really still want to park as close as possible? So what did I call that plan we're about to start on? Downtown streets and parking. So these 2 plans were begun pre-COVID, and then COVID hit, and of course, you know, we just had to put it on the shelf. And so now we're picking those both up. The parking downtown plan is a little bit about, okay, what streets, when we redo them, do we need to put parking on the street and use that asphalt for parking like we've done on some of these old what I call it, St. Francis. I was about to say Old St. Francis. I don't know. There's only one St. Francis. So some of that planning and designing is a big part of a committee we've just put together, but also led by Gary Jansen, our city engineer there in the back, trying to look like he's busy over there. Yeah, you know him. So I think when you talk about economic development in Wichita, we are focused on the center part of the city. And thus my one slide PowerPoint for you today, because I know you see a lot of PowerPoints, and I just said, we're just going to zero in on one thing. So this is not the whole Wichita map. You guys have a pretty cool map, though. I even printed it in your packet. Thank you for that. The populations of all our communities countywide is an awesome map. This one, though, in front of you is what we call the established central area. And if I say places for people plan, do you know what I'm talking about? Some of you know, that's like Wichita's comprehensive plan. And it's very new. It was done right before COVID a couple years ago, and a lot of public input and a lot of vision for the future. And that's when we get some of the walkability, some of the let's focus on what do we need to focus on, right? So with all due respect to all parts of your area, many cities, several counties, all parts of our big city, Wichita, that aren't on this map, I say due respect, but this map is only here to just kind of focus on what, I guess planners called it established central area. So that means we'll have to call it ECA. I think it means the core of the community, the heart of the community, maybe. Certainly it's got some older areas in the community. Certainly it's got some vibrant areas and some densely built and densely populated areas, but it also has some areas that are old housing stock that is in sore need of investment, right? It also has some areas where maybe generationally, grandma used to live there, and then mom sort of lived there, took care of it after grandma died, but their son lives in California, right? And so he just inherited it when mom died. And so is he going to invest in that house and in that lot? Rough deal. And so we all know the neighborhoods I'm talking about. And I know y'all can't read the legend on this. So I'm going to tell you, it says in the legend, neighborhood cycle classification. So the 4 different shades of color on this map, see the pink, red color, the boldest color that you can see is what they're calling formative neighborhoods. And then emerging neighborhoods are gray. So it's really light on your screen. And then the next light bluish is flourishing neighborhood. And then the maturing neighborhood is just this one polygon there is maturing neighborhood. And so planners can figure out how they do all that. But what you all can see is that all through the heart of our community are neighborhoods that are need investment. And that's part of what we're about in terms of Wichita focusing. Does that take anything away from other parts of town or other part? No, I don't think so. And I hope I can, hope you all will be with me on that in terms of we're all representing lots of smaller communities and independent communities and loving communities, but all of us in this area all still would love to take part in Riverfest, or go to a symphony, or to the music theater this weekend at Century 2, or, see the Keeper, whatever. So we all know people and love people who work downtown, live downtown, play downtown. We are those people. Doesn't matter where we live. So I think what I'm trying to say is Wichita's vision is that we have a vibrant region, but that we also consciously think about policies and investments that build up our core. We do not want to be a community of a donut hole that we're afraid to live or work or play downtown. And when I say downtown, what I really mean is this whole established central area. And now that I've said the vision, let's just be very clear. A lot of people buy into this vision, people, business owners, developers, builders, people who own rental homes and try to provide housing for other people. People are buying into it, and there is a lot of investment going on here. And I think you heard numbers from Andrew several months ago in his first report about how many millions of private dollars have been invested in the downtown only, let alone the rest of this area. So I think that will continue. Wichita City staff will continue to work with private developers, real estate agents trying to make deals and figure out what we can redevelop, how to provide housing, because we all know what's one of our biggest issues these days, not just us, the whole state, the whole country probably, but housing, right? When you have a baby boom in the 50s after the war and you build all these houses, and then you've had these cycles, and a lot of folks are still living in those 1940s and 1950s houses that are no longer adequate today. So to have the reinvestment is really huge, and it is our priority. Like I say, there's lots of priorities, but housing really is that. And I'm sure you all know the state's housing study that was released in December for the whole state, because every city's like Wichita in that regard. We all have old housing stock and we all need more builders, right? That state study did conclude that investment at all levels of housing, regardless of income of the occupants and the owners, is a good investment, because even if you're investing in higher level homes, then maybe that means I can move up to a higher level home and someone else can move into my home, and then that releases that apartment for someone else to move into. So it is a trickle up, trickle down kind of a deal. So just like I say, I don't want to keep you all, but I do want to answer any questions you might have. The only other thing, I was just looking at my notes, I think I haven't really addressed much, is the partnership that we have is not only with Greater Wichita Partnership for Economic Development, but it's also with Kansas Global Trade Services and WIBA, Wichita Independent Business Association. Wichita literally has contracts with those three organizations that we give them cash and they give us services when it comes to economic development. So you know Greater Wichita Partnership, they're our sales force. They are the folks who do the long-term plans and do the talent and work with businesses to show them the community and help them work deals, work with the state to get incentives, et cetera, whatever's needed to attract them. But do you know what Kansas Global does? Now, I saw them on your agenda for coming up meetings, so I won't get into any details there. But part of what they do is under contract, funded by Wichita taxpayers, and that is to work with businesses that exist now in our community and helping them figure out how to export their products to other countries. Some of those small businesses are set up to export to France, for example, but they've never explored other countries. And that, as you can imagine, is a whole different process, paperwork, et cetera, for every individual country. So it's great to have that kind of knowledge and talent here in town and to share that with other businesses. And that is one of our business growth and expansion, retention and expansion types of initiatives, is to help our current businesses go other places. Now, you can all imagine, since the pandemic, another piece that we're all seeing in the global economy, certainly the national economy, is to onshore. So bring them back. All y'all folks who had exported jobs and factories and branches of US companies to other countries have learned some things during the pandemic, whether we call those supply chain disruptions or whether those we call that your stuff sitting on the barge in the out at San Diego or sitting on the barge over in China, whatever you want to call it. Companies all over the country and the world are re-examining their strategies, their just-in-time approach, and their reliance on other countries and reliance on logistics and transporting goods long distances. So we are benefiting from that, as our offices, all our people are very busy with businesses approaching us, wanting to have, whether it be distribution systems, warehousing systems. And we're talking about why, because we're in the middle of the country. Some of it is that simple. Some of it is that they've just grown so much, they need a new place closer to an area of the country. And sometimes Wichita is closer to the Southwest or to the Texas market, and sometimes it's to the northern market. Sometimes it's to the whole western side of the country. So we're learning a lot of things in economic development here. And the WIBA contract, I just want to mention, since you wanted to know about economic development in Wichita, we contract with the Wichita Independent Business Association for them to provide assistance to startups, like businesses that have already got the startup part, maybe out at WSU or at Groover Labs, they've started, but then they need to be able to network and learn and talk from other business leaders who know how to do like accounting systems and how to handle taxes and how to handle plant and equipment, things that the initial startup of what's your cool idea that you're going to, build a business on, nobody taught them this before. So WEBA has, their focus is on networking, business people learning from each other. And we value that partnership as well in terms of economic development. There is definitely more going on than just trying to get businesses to come here. That is a small part of how we spend our time. Honestly, I tell you, we have more projects that we bring before City Council, for example, that are growing businesses that are already here, or businesses that are somewhere around here, around Wichita, somewhere in one of the towns. Maybe they've reached the point they need to expand more, or they need to be closer to airport, whatever. So I think I've covered a lot of ground, but I don't want to bore anybody. But if you have any questions or expected something different today, tell me what I can do to help. What questions do you have?
Attorney Becky Tuttle.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for your presentation. And you have been phenomenal as our Assistant City Manager for Economic Development. So thank you for your service with us. Just because I'm so excited about it, today at City Council, we did something for the first time in our Economic Development Toolbox. And I'm sorry, we're just going to brag. So I think it's worth mentioning. Would you mind just giving everyone an update?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for saying it. Well, some of the communities here have done this kind of thing in terms of one of the tools the state gave cities a few years back was a community investment district. Did I say that right? Community investment, CID. So it's one of the economic development tools that we have in our tool bag. And it is literally allowed, because before cities were not allowed to levy sales tax. We can't just do it, but the state let us do it. They said, if you draw a district and there's a public purpose to what you need done, you can levy an additional 1% or 2% or some fraction of a sales tax in that district. So whichever, retail businesses are in that district that they already collect sales tax, they could just add on that 1%. And that money would be collected by the city and then used for a public purpose to help the whole district in one way, shape, or form. So a few years ago, in 2015, the city of Wichita started a 1% tax on a handful of businesses out in the northeast Wichita area. That's today the area of the K96 and Greenwich interchange. So think Cabela's, think Academy Sports. If you've been out that way, it's a big place. A lot of people enter and exit K96. Well, back then, it wasn't a full interchange, and the city and the brilliant engineers with the state and the city, some of whom may be in the room, who knows, they were thinking forward and thinking, we need an interchange here because this highway gets a lot of traffic, and to get people off the highway is kind of difficult. So investment in that was what the Wichita City Council approved, a 1% sales tax increase for a limited period of time on businesses that would develop in the area. Of course, at that time it was, blank ground, but over time, of course, Academy, Duluth Trading, Dave & Buster's, if you go out there, there's a bunch of them, but they all have built, they've been collecting the tax, and a mere 7 years, the city council today just ended that tax. They said, we set this up for 22 years, which is what a CID is allowed to be set up. But sure enough, the businesses came, the people came. As you know, that area is anchored by the Wichita Sports Forum, which is a place mostly for young folks' ball tournaments, basketball tournaments, volleyball tournaments, that kind of thing. So when folks come into town for one of these tournaments, there are thousands of people out there. So they have to eat and they want to shop. And so some of our expenses for paying for that highway interchange were outsourced, offloaded to visitors. And of course, some of us around here shop at those places too. So eliminating that 1% tax in 7 years instead of 22 years was awesome. And it is monumental because the first time it's happened here. And I hope it'll continue to happen here and other places that have started those taxes. And hopefully a lot of them are successful and they find they can end them sooner than 22 years. But this was the first one. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Well, Kathy, I want to thank you for coming. One of the things when Chad and I started talking about economic development and these type of briefings are very important to us because all of the goods and services that we consume here have to come in somehow. And so we need transportation in order to be able to move them in. but we are a huge manufacturing organization in this area. And so all of the things we manufacture have to move out of this area. So again, it's relying on our transportation. And we've got a lot of electeds in this room. And one of the things that I pride myself on is that if I'm elected to represent this area, I need to be a cheerleader for this area. And that's what I try to be all the time, as a cheerleader for this region. And how many of you were able to go to the Deloitte presentations this past week? Unfortunately, just about 3 or 4 of us. So if I can hold down my button at the same time, I can pull up a slide on my phone that was taken at the Deloitte symposium that they had over at the Hyatt. How many of you know what Deloitte is? They teach manufacturers how to be better manufacturers for the future. And so they're going to bring in about 200 Fortune 500 type companies into Wichita every single year. And some of those companies are going to have an opportunity to see Wichita and decide that this is the place that they want to be. And so again, we need to be cheerleaders. But they had one slide that was kind of impressive to me. And they says, why Wichita? Facts about Wichita and Wichita State University. Wichita, highest percentage of STEM jobs in the nation. Highest percentage of STEM jobs in the nation. That's impressive. Brookings Institute, called South Kansas, has the most manufacturing specialized in the entire nation. Number 1 in manufacturing jobs as a percentage of all jobs in the nation. WSU is ranked first in industry-funded aerospace R&D by National Science Foundation. WSU is number 2 in the overall industry funding among the universities with over $500 million in R&D expenditures. That's pretty impressive for this region. But again, it requires transportation in order to get all those goods and services in here and the finished product out of here. And we have a number of great organizations that are making that happen. We have, as Kathy mentioned, we have Greater Wichita Partnership. Now, she went over the 3 priorities. One of those 3 priorities is talent. That's one of the places that we do have. We got Friends, we got Newman, we got WSU Tech, we got WSU, we got KU Medical Center. We've got some great education opportunities here, but we still need more people. We are exporting our best talent in the world to other areas. So we've got to, with all of the things that are happening here, as Kathy talked about, we have to have quality of life in order to keep those people here, because our unemployment is extremely low right now, which normally you'd say is a great thing. But I was just at the GWP meeting this past week, and talent is probably the biggest issue that they've got right now. I heard from Textron, I heard from
Bombardier.
Bombardier, okay? Both of those companies said, we can't find the people. And as a matter of fact, Textron was talking about, you bring them in, you bring someone in, we'll put them in school. And if they want to keep going through school, we'll keep paying for it. And if they want to be a pilot, we're going to pay for that because we need pilots for the future. So these companies are providing a lot of incentives to get the talent here and to keep the talent. We're blessed by having WSU Tech, and that was before my time, but we had a county commission that said, hey, that education is important. And I don't know how many of you know, but the county commission paid for WSU Tech and gave it to WSU free of charge. Matter of fact, we're still paying for it today. If you want to help us with our bond issue, I would be happy. But the thing that's happening.
It went off.
Yep,
No.
I'm still on. What's happening in the near future, I'm hoping, is that we'll have a new health science center downtown, and we'll start having thousands of people, along with the new OD school that we've got downtown, right in downtown Wichita, are going to school. So I'm not talking about just Wichita, I'm talking about this region. And this region is flourishing, and we need to keep that going. And that's one of the main reasons that I keep these different discussions going in the future so that you all can be cheerleaders also, just as I am, on what's happening in this future and why the things like WAMPO and KDOT and the Federal Highway Administration to help us be able to move those goods and services in. So sorry I talked so long, but last week was just absolutely fantastic. I'm sorry that if you hadn't had an opportunity to go watch the Deloitte presentations, but that is going to be a game changer here. The new Health Science Center is going to be a game changer. The new OD facility is going to be a game changer. There's just so much happening, and I just read you why that one of the nation's premier companies chose Wichita. So I talked too long. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Kathy? Oh, thank you. Okay. Any other business today? I don't see anything. And thanks for everyone coming today. We appreciate it. And don't forget, we're always available here in person, but we're still able to have people that are online because this is so important. I don't want people to miss out. Again, thank you all, and we're adjourned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't have any heels as a shirt. Well, I guess we don't win.